My parents handed me an old, run-down house and my sister an apartment. Never knew who owned land. Can you imagine pouring your heart and soul, every single dollar you have, into rebuilding a derelict house, only for your own mother to look you dead in the eye and say, "We're taking it back. It belongs to your sister now. You have 48 hours." What the hell would you do? Let me take you back to a Friday evening in March. I was 28, and it all started at my parents' dining table, that massive mahogany table where every big family announcement had been made since I was 6 years old. My father, Gerald, stood at the head, a retired bank branch manager who still ran our house like his office. Nobody dared speak until he was finished. My mother, Diane, was beside him, hands folded, smiling that practiced, perfect smile. And across from me sat Meredith, my twin, my mirror image, the golden child. My parents' favorite. "We've decided," Gerald began, his voice devoid of warmth, "to give you girls a head start." He slid 2 envelopes across the table. One was thick, bulging. The other, impossibly thin. Meredith, of course, grabbed the thick one first. Inside, a gleaming brass key and a printed lease agreement for a brand-new, 2-bedroom luxury apartment in the downtown Lake View district. Market value? Easily $280,000. She screamed. An actual, ear-splitting shriek of pure joy. My mother pulled her into a hug, and for a long moment, the whole room was just the two of them, laughing, rocking. It was a picture of perfect happiness. Just not for me. I opened mine. A single key, brown with rust. A scrap of paper with an address I didn't recognize. I looked at my father, my voice barely a whisper. "What is this?" "It needs some work," he said, dismissive. "But you're handy." That was it. Not a hug, not an explanation, just "you're handy." I turned to my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was still hugging Meredith. And Meredith, my twin sister, the girl who shared a womb with me, tilted her head and said, so softly, so sweetly, "At least you got something, Liv." But I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. I knew that twitch. It wasn't sympathy. It was pure, unadulterated satisfaction. I folded the paper, slid it into my pocket. I didn't say a word. I should have. I should have screamed. But I just sat there. I didn't know it then, but Gerald had deliberately scrolled past 4 perfectly decent properties on my grandmother's old land registry. He'd picked the one most likely to break me. Saturday morning I drove. 40 minutes west on Route 9, past the strip malls, past the last gas station, into a stretch of road where the houses thinned out and the trees pressed closer. The address led me down a crumbling gravel path. And when I saw it, I stopped the car and just sat there staring. The roof sagged on the left side like a broken shoulder. 2 front windows were shattered, stuffed with yellowed plastic. The porch steps were half collapsed. Waist-high weeds swallowed the yard, and the whole structure leaned slightly east, as if it was just tired of standing. The smell hit me before I even opened the door. Mildew. Rot. Something animal. Inside, exposed wiring hung from the ceiling like dead vines. Rusted pipes. A kitchen floor so warped it buckled under my boot. I just walked out and sat on the porch, on the one step that felt stable. I called Marcus. Marcus Webb, 30 years old, real estate attorney, and the only person who'd never lied to me. We met freshman year of college. He's the kind of friend who shows up at 2 in the morning and doesn't ask why. "How bad?" he asked. "Roof's caving, wiring's exposed, no running water." He was quiet for a second. "You want me to look at the deed?" "Not yet." My voice cracked, and I hated it. I need a minute." He gave me the minute. He gave me 5. I hung up and just stared at the house. And I thought about my grandmother, Lorraine. When I was 9, she taught me to build a bookshelf in her garage. She put my hands on the wood and said, "Your hands know things your head hasn't figured out yet." That phone call with Marcus, I didn't know it then, would end up saving everything. I sat in my truck that night with a notebook and a calculator. Roof, $8,000. Floors, $5,000. Plumbing, $6,000. Electrical, $7,000. Paint, drywall, fixtures, another $9,000. Total estimate? $35,000. My savings account? 12,411. My stomach clenched. I closed the notebook, opened it again, and started crossing things out. What could I do myself? Floors? Yes. Drywall? Yes. Paint, obviously. Cabinets, trim, built-ins? That's literally my job. I'm a carpenter, a furniture restorer. I've been working with wood since I was 16, and I'm good at it. But my family? They've never once called it a career. To them, I'm just the twin who sands chairs in a sad little workshop while Meredith wears blazers. Monday morning, Meredith called. Her voice dripped with that particular sweetness she uses when she's about to say something cruel. "Oh, sweetie, are you really going to live there?" "It's mine," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "I'll make it work." "You could just sell it," she purred. "Get a little apartment somewhere." I said I'll make it work. A pause. Then, "Okay, Liv. Good luck with that." That afternoon, my mother texted, "Don't waste your savings, Olivia. Your father knows best." I didn't reply. I drove to the hardware store and bought 200 pounds of lumber. The first week, I was on my hands and knees, tearing out the rotted kitchen floor. I hauled debris to a rented dumpster. A woman from next door, Ruth, 65, with reading glasses and a no-nonsense jaw, leaned over the fence and watched. "Lot of work," she observed. "Yeah," I grunted. She brought me a pitcher of ice water without being asked. Then she said something that stuck with me. "This land used to belong to Lorraine Price." "She your grandma?" I stared at her. "Yes." "But how do you know that?" Ruth shrugged. "I've lived here 30 years, honey. I know who owned what." I filed that away. I didn't understand it yet, but I filed it. 6 weeks in, my savings were gone. Not low, gone. Every dollar I had was now embedded in the bones of this house. New subfloor, fresh drywall, a repaired roof that no longer leaked when it rained. The kitchen had cabinets I designed and built myself, white oak with dovetail joints. The living room wall that was crumbling was now smooth, painted a warm white, and if you pressed your hand against it, it was solid. But the electrical system was a problem. The original wiring was knob and tube from the 60s. I'd replace what I could reach, but the main panel needed a licensed electrician. That was $3,000 to $5,000 I didn't have. So, I ran temporary wiring through conduit. It was safe for now. It passed a visual check. But it wasn't permanent. I wrote it down in my project notebook, underlined twice. Asterisk electrical priority. Get licensed electrician ASAP. Asterisk I picked up freelance work at night. Custom cutting boards. A reclaimed wood dining table for a couple in the next town. $60 here, $90 there. It wasn't enough, but it kept the lights on. Literally. Then Gerald showed up. No call, no text. He just appeared in the doorway one Tuesday afternoon, hands in his pockets, looking around like a landlord inspecting a rental. He walked through the living room, ran his finger across the mantel I'd restored from the original fireplace surround. He opened a cabinet door. Let it swing, didn't say nice work, didn't say anything for a full minute then. Not bad. I waited for more. But then he added, flat, unreadable. But don't get too attached. My stomach dropped, a cold, heavy stone. What does that mean? I asked. He just looked at me. I said what I said. He left. From the window, I watched him drive away. And I noticed something I wished I hadn't. The way he looked at the house wasn't pride. It was appraisal. 2 days later, I stopped by Meredith's apartment to pick up a drill I'd lent her months ago. She texted, "Busy. Can't come to the door. Leave it on the mat. I'll find it later." But I was already in the hallway, and I saw what was stacked outside her door. 11 Amazon packages. Not small ones. Shoe boxes. Garment bags. A flat-screen TV still sealed in foam. The packages were piled, so high they blocked the welcome mat. I knocked again. "Mare? I just need the drill." I said I'm busy, Olivia. Her voice sounded thin, stretched. I stepped back, and through the gap beneath her door, I could see the living room light flickering. She was watching television at 2 in the afternoon on a workday. Then I heard her phone ring inside. She picked up, and her voice dropped to that specific whisper people use when they don't want the walls to hear. Mom, I just need a little more time. The credit card company keeps calling. A pause. No, I haven't told him. Please don't tell Dad. And then, my mother's voice, tinny through the speaker. We'll figure it out, sweetheart. Don't tell your father. I stood in that hallway for 10 seconds. Then I left quietly. I didn't say anything to anyone. It's not my business, I told myself. But in the truck, a memory hit me. I was 16. I caught Meredith pulling bills from our grandmother Lorraine's purse in the kitchen. A 20. A 50. Lorraine was napping in the next room. I told Gerald that evening. He turned on me. Not her. Me. Stop making up stories about your sister. I learned something that night. In this family, the truth only counts when it comes from the right daughter. Now I was starting to wonder, how much did Meredith actually owe? And what would happen when Gerald found out? 10 weeks after I started, the house was almost unrecognizable. New floors, new walls, a kitchen that looked like something out of a design magazine because I'd built every inch of it. I posted a few photos on Instagram, before and afters, my hands on the timber, the sunrise through the new windows. Comments poured in from friends, old classmates, even strangers. Incredible. You did this yourself? This is goals. It felt like the first applause I'd ever gotten from anyone who wasn't Marcus. Then Thursday evening, no warning. Gerald's car pulled into my driveway. Diane in the passenger seat. They walked in through the front door, like they still own the place. Diane drifted through the rooms. She touched the walls, opened the kitchen cabinets, ran her palm across the countertop I'd sanded, and sealed myself. She didn't comment. She cataloged. Gerald planted himself in the center of the living room. Your mother and I have been talking. My chest tightened. About what? Meredith needs this house. The room tilted. Excuse me? Diane, from the hallway, added. Her apartment, there were complications. She can't stay there anymore. I looked at my father. What kind of complications? Gerald ignored the question. The deed is still in my name, Olivia. This house belongs to me. You have 48 hours to move out. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the counter. My counter. I rebuilt this house. Every wall, every floor. I started. With my property. Gerald cut me off. On my land. My decision. Diane stepped closer, her voice soft, practiced. We'll make it up to you, honey. This is what's best for the family. I stared at them both. My mother, who wouldn't look at me. My father, who had already decided. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I said 5 words. 5 quiet, steady words. I need to make a phone call. 11 p.m. I was sitting on the kitchen floor I'd installed 6 weeks ago, back against the cabinets I'd built, calling the one person who'd never made me feel small. Marcus picked up on the first ring. What happened? I told him everything. Gerald's visit, the 48 hours. Meredith needs this house, my land, my decision. Marcus was quiet for 3 seconds. When he spoke, his voice was flat and precise. His lawyer voice. Is the deed in his name? He says it is. He never let me see the paperwork. Did you ever receive a copy, a transfer document, anything notarized? No. He said he'd handle it. That's the first problem. A pause. The second. Who actually owns the land? Something clicked in my head. Ruth's voice. Marcus, my neighbor told me this land used to belong to my grandmother. Used to or still does? I don't know. Give me 24 hours, he said. Don't sign anything. Don't move anything. Don't respond to your father. Can you do that? I wasn't planning to. Good. And Olivia? Yeah. I've been waiting for you to let me help. His voice cracked just slightly on the word waiting. And I realized he'd been watching me carry this alone for 10 weeks. He'd asked me about the deed the very first day. I'd waved him off. I told myself I didn't need a lawyer. I told myself family would work it out. I was wrong. I hung up. At 12:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. Gerald. Clock is ticking, Olivia. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I read the text. I didn't reply. For the first time in 28 years, I chose not to make it easier for him. By 9 the next morning, my phone had 17 unread messages. Diane, please don't do this to our family. Just let Meredith have the house. We'll make it up to you somehow. Meredith, Liv, I really need this. I'm in a bad place right now. Please. Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister. Your mother is in tears. How can you be so selfish, Olivia? A cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. Family first. Don't be that person. They'd activated the phone tree. The entire network mobilized in 12 hours. And the message was unanimous. Olivia is the problem. Gerald called at 10. His voice was cold, controlled, the voice of a man who has never once lost an argument in his own house. If you fight this, you won't just lose the house, you'll lose your family. I held the phone away from my ear and stared at the screen. Then I set it face down on the workbench and picked up a chisel. I was in my workshop, the small one I rent behind the hardware store on 5th Street. It smelled like sawdust and linseed oil, the two best smells in the world. I ran my thumb along the edge of a hand-carved chisel my grandmother Lorraine gave me when I turned 18. And I talk to you because I need someone to hear this. My whole life I was taught that family is everything. That you sacrifice, that you bend, that you make room. But no one ever taught me that family can also be the people who use love as a weapon, who wrap control in the word sacrifice, who hand you a pile of rust and call it a gift. Then a notification popped up. It was in the family group chat. Aunt Carol, clearly meaning to text Diane privately, had sent a message to everyone. Diane says Meredith owes over $60,000 in credit cards. Gerald doesn't know yet. What do we do? I screenshot it. And I saved it. Marcus called at 4 that afternoon. He didn't say hello. Olivia, the land was never in Gerald's name. I set down my sander. What? It's held in a trust. A revocable living trust established in 2012. The trustee and grantor is Lorraine Price. Your grandmother. My skin went cold. That's not. Gerald told me he owned it. Gerald lied. Or he assumed. Either way, the county recorder's office has no deed transfer to Gerald Holloway. The land and any structures on it belong to the trust and the sole listed beneficiary. He paused. Is you? I sat down on the workshop floor. Me? You. I hadn't spoken to my grandmother in almost 2 years. Not by choice. Gerald told me she was getting confused. That calling her would only stress her out. He said it so many times, I stopped questioning it. I stopped calling. I dialed her number with shaking hands. It rang 4 times. Hello. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, but steady. Grandma, it's Olivia. Silence. 1 beat. 2. I was waiting for this call, sweetheart. I couldn't breathe. I told her what Gerald did. The house, the renovation, the 48 hours, all of it rushing out of me like a dam breaking. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, I set up that trust for you. Not for your father, not for Meredith. For you. The year you turned 18 because I saw how they treated you, baby. I saw it, and I planned for it. I was crying now. I didn't try to stop. I'm old, Olivia, but I'm not gone yet. And that land is yours. I wiped my face. Grandma, thank you. I don't even know what to. There's one more thing I need to tell you, she said, but not on the phone. I'm coming to see you. She hung up before I could argue. The next evening, Marcus sat at my kitchen table, the one I built from reclaimed pine, and spread out 3 stacks of paper. Stack 1. The trust deed. Lorraine Price established a revocable living trust in 2012, naming herself as trustee and me as sole beneficiary. The trust holds the property at this address, the land, and any improvements on it. It's been notarized, recorded with the county, and it's airtight. Stack 2. Every building permit, every contractor receipt, every material invoice from the last 10 weeks. All of them in my name. When I pulled permits from the city, I signed as Olivia Holloway, property occupant and trust beneficiary. The city approved them, not Gerald.
Me.
Stack 3. A screenshot of Aunt Carol's misfired text. Meredith owes over $60,000 in credit cards. Gerald doesn't know yet. Marcus tapped the trust deed. Your father has no legal claim. He can't transfer what he doesn't own. He can't evict you from your own property. So, the 48 hours is a bluff. He paused. A loud one, but still a bluff. I exhaled. It was the first full breath I'd taken in 2 days. So, what do we do? Marcus leaned back. Nothing yet. We wait for them to make their move publicly, then we respond. Why publicly? Because your father built this lie in front of the family. He told everyone this was his house, his land, his decision. That lie needs to fall in front of the same audience. I looked at the papers, the trust deed, the permits, the receipts. For 10 weeks, I'd been building this house thinking I was powerless. But the whole time, the power was right here. I just didn't know it. Marcus stood at the door.
He turned.
One thing, that temporary wiring you mentioned. Get it fixed or documented. Everything in this house needs to be clean. I nodded. I wrote it in my notebook, but I didn't call the electrician yet. There was no time. Because what Aunt Carol told me next changed everything. The phone rang at 8 the next morning. It was Aunt Carol. Her voice was low, rushed, the voice of someone calling from a bathroom with the faucet running. Olivia, listen to me. Your mother is planning a housewarming party. My grip on the counter tightened. A housewarming? Tomorrow? At your house. She's invited 20 people. She's telling everyone you agreed to it. That you're happy to give Meredith the house. That it was your idea. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger.
Not yet.
Something quieter. Something that had been building for 28 years. Carol, why are you telling me this? She hesitated. Because I sent that text by accident, and now your mother won't speak to me. And because I've watched this family punish you for being easy to punish. It's not right. It never was. I hung up and called Marcus. 2 words. It's tomorrow. I'll be there. No hesitation. And so will your grandmother. She's 78, Marcus. She lives 3 hours away. She's already on her way. She called me this morning. My grandmother, 78 years old, bad hip, drives a Buick older than I am, and she was already on the road. That night, I sat in my workshop. I ran a sheet of fine grit sandpaper over a scrap of walnut, back and forth. The rhythm steadied my pulse. You know that feeling when your entire family constructs a story about you? A story where you're the selfish one, the unreasonable one, the one who's tearing everything apart. And then they invite an audience to watch you play your part. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. tomorrow. I was walking into my own house, either for the last time or the first. I arrived at 9. The front door, my front door, the one I stripped, sanded, and restained by hand, was propped open with a doorstop I'd never seen before. Inside, the house was unrecognizable in a different way now. Diane had been here since dawn. New throw pillows on the couch. A tablecloth I didn't buy. Platters of food covering the countertops I installed. And hanging from the living room archway, pink and gold balloons and a glitter banner that screamed, "Welcome home, Meredith." 20 people filled the rooms. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Diane's book club friends, 3 neighbors I'd waved to but never met. They were all holding paper plates and plastic cups, chatting like this was perfectly normal, like this was a celebration. Meredith stood in the center of the living room, hair blown out, new dress. She was laughing. Gerald had his hand on her shoulder, a proud father pose, chest out. He saw me in the doorway. His voice carried across the room. Olivia came to congratulate her sister. That's what family does. Every head turned. 20 smiles aimed at me. I felt them like heat lamps. Diane appeared at my elbow with a glass of lemonade. Be gracious, honey. This is hard for all of us. Great Aunt Margaret, Gerald's older sister, patted my arm. Such a generous thing you did, Olivia, giving your sister this beautiful house. I looked at her. I didn't give anyone anything. The pat stopped. Margaret blinked. Gerald's voice dropped.
Low.
A warning. Olivia not here. Meredith glided over. Her voice silk. Liv, we talked about this. It's for the best. I looked around the room. 20 pairs of eyes. Not one of them knew the truth. And every single one of them was looking at me like I was the villain. Outside the window, I caught a glimpse of Ruth. She was standing on her porch, watching through the glass, slowly shaking her head. It happened in the kitchen. My kitchen. Meredith followed me in, and the moment we were out of earshot, the mask fell off. You should thank me, honestly. I turned around. For what? For giving you a reason to finally do something with your life. She leaned against the island I built from scratch, white oak and brass hardware, and examined her nails. You'd still be sanding chairs in that sad little workshop if it wasn't for me. My jaw tightened. I built this kitchen, Meredith. These cabinets, that island. With my hands. And now they're mine. She said it like she was reading a weather report. That's how it works in this family, Liv. I thought you understood that by now. She opened a cabinet. Inside, Diane's casserole dishes, Diane's serving bowls, already unpacked, already at home. Meredith pulled out a glass, filled it from the faucet I connected, drank, and looked at me over the rim. Dad said you can take your tools when you leave. I don't need them. She walked back into the living room. I heard Gerald's voice rise over the noise. If I could have everyone's attention, please. I followed her out. Gerald was standing by the fireplace, the surround I restored from the original 1967 woodwork, raising a glass. To family, he said, and to Meredith's beautiful new home. 20 glasses lifted. 20 voices repeated it. To Meredith. I stood in the back of the room. My hands were fists at my sides. My throat was burning. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. I was listening for something. A knock at the door. A car pulling into the driveway. Any second now. I know. I know some of you are screaming at your screens right now. Trust me, I was screaming inside, too. But here's the thing. If you've ever been the one your family took for granted, the one they expected to just go along with it, drop a fire in the comments. And if you want to see what happened when I finally stopped being silent, make sure you're subscribed because it's coming. Gerald was mid-sentence, something about sacrifice, something about what it means to provide for your children, when the knock came. 3 sharp raps.
Firm.
Professional. Gerald frowned. Diane glanced at the door. Nobody moved. I did. I crossed the room and opened the front door. Marcus stood on the porch. Gray suit, leather briefcase. His face was calm, but I could see the edge in his posture, coiled, ready. He nodded at me once. Behind him, moving slowly up the porch steps, gripping a carved wooden cane with both hands, was my grandmother, Lorraine Price. 78 years old, silver hair pinned back, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Gerald's voice from behind me. Who invited you? Marcus stepped inside. No one. I'm Miss Holloway's legal counsel. She doesn't need a lawyer, Gerald scoffed. This is a family matter. With respect, Mr. Holloway. Marcus set his briefcase on the dining table. Property transfer is a legal matter. The room went still. 20 people holding plates and cups, frozen mid-bite. Meredith's smile dissolved. Then Lorraine walked in. I took her arm. She patted my hand without looking at me. Her eyes were locked on Gerald. She surveyed the room slowly. The balloons. The banner. The food on counters that Olivia built. She read the glitter letters. Welcome home, Meredith. She turned to Gerald. The room held its breath. She said one sentence, quiet, clear. The kind of sentence that lands like a gavel. Gerald, whose land do you think this is? Gerald opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Lorraine pulled out a chair, sat down, and folded her hands on the table.
Sit down, son.
You're going to want to sit for this. Marcus opened the briefcase. The click of the latches was the loudest sound in the room. He pulled out a document, crisp, bound, notarized. He set it on the table so everyone could see the county seal. If I may have the room's attention, his voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. This property, the land, and every structure on it, is held in a revocable living trust established by Lorraine Price in 2012. The sole beneficiary is Olivia Holloway. Gerald took a step forward. That's not possible. My mother gave me. I gave you nothing, Gerald. Lorraine's voice cut the room like a blade. She didn't raise it.
She didn't need to.
I let you use the address for mail. I let you believe what you wanted. But I never transferred the title. It was never yours. Marcus continued, Mr. Holloway, you hold no deed, no title, and no legal authority to transfer this property to anyone. Furthermore, every building permit, every contractor invoice, every material receipt for the renovations performed over the past 10 weeks is filed under Olivia Holloway's name. She is the legal owner of all improvements. The county recorder's office can verify every page. Diane, her voice cracking, cried, Mother, how could you do this to us? Lorraine looked at her daughter-in-law, steady, unblinking. I did this for Olivia. Because you too couldn't. The seesaw started. 20 people who walked in thinking this was a housewarming were now realizing they'd been invited to a lie. Great Aunt Margaret turned to Gerald. Gerald, you told us this was your house. Gerald said nothing. His face was the color of raw steak. And then Lorraine added quietly, to no one and everyone, I set up this trust the year Olivia turned 18. Because I saw how you treated her, Gerald. I saw it, and I planned ahead. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Meredith stepped forward. Her hands were shaking. Her perfect composure, the composure she'd worn like armor her entire life, was cracking at the seams. This doesn't change anything, Mom and Dad said. Gerald snapped. Meredith, be quiet. No. Her voice pitched high, desperate. I need this house. I don't have anywhere else to go. The room froze. Not whispers now. Silence. The kind that swallows sound. Gerald turned to her slowly. What do you mean you don't have anywhere else? Meredith's eyes were wet. Her lips moved before her brain caught up. The apartment. I lost it. I couldn't keep up with the payments. Gerald stared at her, then at Diane, his wife, who had been clutching a dish towel to her chest like a lifeline. You lost the apartment, Gerald said. The apartment I gave you 3 months ago? Diane's chin dropped. Gerald, I was going to tell you. You knew. The room ruptured. 20 people watched as Gerald's face cycled through shock, betrayal, fury. Meredith was crying. Real tears now, mascara streaking. Diane was crying, too, reaching for Gerald's arm. And he pulled away like her hand was on fire. Aunt Carol stared at the floor. Great Aunt Margaret picked up her purse. I think, she said quietly, we should all go home. People started moving. Coats, keys mumbled goodbyes. No one looked at Gerald. No one looked at Meredith. They looked at me. Quick, uncertain glances. And then away. I was standing in the corner of the room, my grandmother's hand in mine. I hadn't moved. I hadn't spoken. Gerald turned to me. His voice was broken glass. You planned this. I met his eyes.
No, Dad.
You planned this. I just showed up. The house emptied. Paper plates on the counter. Half-eaten casseroles. A balloon drifted across the floor and settled against the wall. Gerald and Diane sat on the sofa. My sofa, that I reupholstered from a thrift store frame. Meredith was somewhere outside. I could hear her crying in her car through the open window. Marcus stepped forward. He held out a white envelope. Mr. Holloway, this is a formal cease and desist letter. You are not to enter this property again without Olivia's written consent. Any attempt to claim ownership, alter locks, or contact Miss Holloway with threats regarding this property will be documented and forwarded to the County District Attorney's office. Gerald looked at the envelope. He didn't take it. Marcus set it on the coffee table. Everything is documented. The trust deed, the permits, the receipts. The law is clear. Diane turned to me. Her eyes were swollen. Olivia, please. Please what, Mom? Please give up? Please be the easy one again? Please fold, so you don't have to face the mess you made. I didn't say any of that. What I said was, Mom, I love you. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them take everything from you. Diane's face crumbled. Gerald stood.
He didn't look at me.
Didn't look at Marcus. Didn't look at his mother. Lorraine, still seated, still holding her cane, spoke one last time. You could have been proud of her, Gerald. That would have cost you nothing. He walked out the front door without a word. Diane followed. The car started. Gravel crunched. Then it was quiet. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I looked around the room. The banner hung crooked. A cup of lemonade sweated on the mantel I restored. Not yet, I said. But I will be. That evening, I changed the locks on the front door. I did it myself. For screws, a new deadbolt, a brass handle I'd been saving for the right moment. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. It's just hardware, but it feels like drawing a line in concrete. Ruth came over with a pot of yellow chrysanthemums. She set it on the porch railing and looked at me through her reading glasses. I always knew that house was yours, honey. Yeah, your grandparents built it together in '67. I was 17. I watched them carry the lumber. I held the pot and let that settle into me. 1967. My grandparents' hands on this same frame. My grandmother's trust protecting it decades later. And now my hands finishing what they're started. I tore down the banner, popped the balloons, swept the floors, loaded the leftover food into bags for Ruth and her neighbor. And then I sat in the middle of the living room, the room I rebuilt from bare studs, in perfect silence. It's the first silence that isn't fear. It's just quiet. My phone buzzed. Marcus, get that electrical work done, Liv. Seriously. I called the electrician. Scheduled it for next Thursday. Then, while clearing Diane's things from the hall closet, I found something. A letter. Yellowed envelope, no stamp, hand-delivered and hidden. The handwriting was Lorraine's. Asterisk, my dear Olivia, your grandfather and I built that house together in 1967, the summer we married. I always meant for it to go to someone who would love it the way we did. It was always meant for you. Asterisk, the letter was dated 5 years ago. Gerald hid it. 5 years of my grandmother's words stuffed behind someone else's coats. I pressed the letter to my chest. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Real quick, if you've ever had to draw a line with someone you love, someone who should have protected you, comment my house below. I read every single one. And if this story is hitting close to home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Now, let me tell you what happened next, because my family wasn't finished. The fallout isn't loud. It's slow. It's the kind of damage that spreads like water finding cracks. 1 week after the housewarming, Great Aunt Margaret stopped returning Gerald's calls. She told Aunt Carol she was deeply embarrassed to share a last name with him. Cousin Katie, Margaret's daughter, my age, the one who always sat next to me at Thanksgiving, called me on a Tuesday night. I always thought something was off, she said. I just didn't know what it was. Nobody asked. I know. I'm sorry no one stood up for you sooner. Gerald's position as honorary elder advisor at Grace Lutheran Church, a title he'd held for 6 years, built entirely on the image of a devoted family man, quietly disappeared. The pastor didn't fire him. He simply stopped calling. Gerald's name was removed from the weekly bulletin. No announcement, just absence. Diane went dark on Facebook. No more family photos. No more blessed to have my girls posts. For the first time in a decade, her profile picture was a sunset instead of a Holloway family portrait. Meredith got her first call from a collections agency. Then her second. Without Gerald and Diane running interference, $62,000 of credit card debt had her name on it. All of it. Ruth told me something one morning over the fence. Your father came by last Tuesday. Stood outside the house for 10 minutes just looking. Then he drove away. I don't know what to do with that, so I file it the way I file everything I'm not ready to feel. Then an email landed in my inbox from a reporter at Homestead and Craft magazine. She'd found my renovation photos on Instagram. She wanted to feature the house. She wanted to know who did the work. The work my father said wasn't a career. Gerald called on a Thursday, early afternoon. I was in my workshop, fitting a mortise joint for a client's bookcase. His name flashed on my screen, and my hands went still. I answered. We need to talk, he said. His voice was tired. Not soft. Gerald doesn't do soft, but worn, like a tool that's been used without maintenance. I'm listening. Your grandmother isn't thinking clearly. She's old. She doesn't understand what she did with that trust. I closed my eyes. We should contest it, he continued. The family should have a say. I'll get a lawyer. We can, Dad.
He stopped.
She set up that trust with her own attorney. It's been notarized, recorded, and active for over a decade. Lorraine is perfectly competent. You know that. Silence. I could hear him breathing. I'm your father, Olivia. That land should have been mine. It was never yours, Dad. I set down the chisel. And neither am I. The line went quiet for so long I checked to see if he'd hung up. He hadn't. You're making a mistake, he said finally. The same voice he used when I told him I was becoming a carpenter instead of going into banking. The same flat, dismissive tone. No. I kept my voice even. I made a mistake every time I believed you'd treat me fairly. That's over now. I ended the call. My thumbs shook over the screen. I want to tell you it felt powerful. It didn't. It felt like pulling a splinter out of a wound that's been infected for years. Necessary, painful, and long overdue. Setting boundaries with someone you love is never the triumphant moment people think it is. It's quiet. It's lonely. And sometimes the bravest thing you can say is simply, enough. 2 weeks later, Saturday morning, I was on the porch sealing a window frame when I heard a car pull into the gravel drive. The engine cut. A door opened and didn't close for a long time. Meredith walked up the path. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a knot. She was wearing a sweatshirt I'd never seen. Gray, too big for her, the kind of thing she'd normally never be caught dead in. Her eyes were swollen. She looked 10 years older than she did at the housewarming. She stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. My porch steps. The ones I rebuilt. I'm not here to ask for the house. I set down the brush. Then why? I don't know how to fix my life, Liv. Her voice was raw. No performance, no practice sweetness, just a woman drowning. I owe $62,000. I haven't slept in a week. The collections people call every morning at 7. I looked at my twin sister, and for the first time, I didn't see the golden child. I didn't see the one who always got the bigger portion, the warmer hug, the louder applause. I saw someone who was handed everything and taught nothing. Someone who never learned to build because she never had to. I can't fix that for you, I said. And I won't. I know. But I can give you the number of a financial counselor Marcus knows. The rest is on you. She nodded, wiped her face, turned to go. At the bottom step, she stopped, reached into her bag, pulled out a small cardboard box, and set it on the railing. I'm sorry, she said. For the kitchen. For all of it. I looked at her. I hear you. I don't say, I forgive you because I'm not there yet. And I don't owe anyone forgiveness on a timeline that isn't mine. After her car disappeared down the gravel road, I opened the box. Inside, 2 thin silver bracelets. My grandmother gave them to us when we were 8, 1 for each twin. Meredith kept both for 15 years. 1 month later, a photographer stood in my living room with a DSLR camera and a reflector board, and I thought, this is the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. The reporter from Homestead and Craft was named Dana. She was in her 40s, all business, with a tape recorder and a notebook full of questions. She walked through every room, touching the trim work, crouching to examine the dovetail joints on the kitchen cabinets, running her palm along the fireplace surround. Who did the millwork? She asked. I did. And the floors? Me. The cabinetry, also me. She looked up from her notebook. Who taught you to build? I smiled. My grandmother. The article ran 3 weeks later. Title: From Ruin to Remarkable: How One Woman Rebuilt a 1967 Home with Her Own Hands. 4 pages, 12 photos. They used the before and after of the kitchen as the centerfold spread. Ruth appeared in one of the photos. She was leaning on the fence between our yards, grinning, holding up a lemonade like a toast. Within a week, I got 3 custom furniture commissions: a dining table, a set of bookshelves, a nursery crib in white ash. My workshop finally had a name: Holloway Woodworks. I hung the sign myself. Marcus called to congratulate me. Trust is fully recorded. Title insurance is done. No one can touch it. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. That's what friends are for. A beat. Now, please tell me you called an electrician. I laughed. Actually laughed.
Done.
Last Thursday. Full panel replacement. New wiring. Inspection pass. Thank God. That weekend, I got an email from the community center downtown. They wanted to know if I'd teach a woodworking workshop for women. I said yes. The class filled in 3 days. Lorraine came to stay for a week in May. She arrived in the Buick with a flat of marigolds, a bag of potting soil, and a photo album I'd never seen. We planted the flowers in the front yard, side by side on our knees in the dirt, just the way she taught me to sandwood. Slow, steady, with your whole hand. She told me this was the exact spot where she and my grandfather planted their first garden in the summer of 1967. Marigolds and zinnias, the same flowers. Your grandfather would have loved what you did with the kitchen, she said, pressing soil around a seedling. I found your letter, I told her. The one Dad hid. She didn't look up. I wrote 3 letters.
He hid all of them. But you're here now, baby.
That's what matters. 3 letters. 3 attempts to reach me. 3 times Gerald stood between us and decided I didn't deserve to hear from the woman who loved me most. We sat on the porch when the sun got low. The porch I rebuilt. Ruth brought over a pitcher of lemonade without being asked. It's become a ritual. The new neighbors across the road, a young couple who moved in last month, waved from their driveway. I waved back. Lorraine reached over and took my hand. Her skin was paper thin, but her grip was iron. The best revenge isn't revenge at all, she said. It's the life you build after. I looked out at the yard, the marigolds, the fresh paint, the house that was a ruin 4 months ago. I didn't receive fairness from my family, but I built it for myself, with concrete and oak and the truth. I know, Grandma. She squeezed my hand. I know. A week after Lorraine leaves, I sit down at my desk, the one I built from reclaimed cherry, the first piece of furniture I ever sold, and I write an email. Mom, Dad, I love you. That hasn't changed. But I will not accept being treated as less than. I will not be the daughter you take from to give to someone else. I will not shrink so that someone else can fill the space. If you want a relationship with me, it starts with respect. Not control, not obligation, not guilt. I'm not closing the door, but I'm choosing who gets to walk through it. Olivia. I hit send. I don't get a reply. Not that day. Not that week. And for the first time, I'm okay with the silence. Because it's my silence now. I chose it. It wasn't pushed on me. Friday evening, I sit in the living room. The house is quiet. Through the window, I can see Ruth's porch light, the marigolds in the yard, the road that leads to town, where 3 clients are waiting for furniture I designed. On my workbench, inside the top drawer, sit 2 silver bracelets. The ones Meredith returned. I don't wear them, but I haven't thrown them away either. Someday, maybe they'll mean something different. But not today. I look around this room. Every surface tells a story. The floors my knees remember. The walls my arms ache from. The cabinets my grandmother's hands inspired. This isn't the house my parents gave me. That house was a ruin, a punishment, a message that said, "You are worth less." This house is the one I built. And I am the one who decides what it means. I don't know what happens next with my family, but I know what happens next with me. Because for the first time in 28 years, that's my call. When I started this story, I thought the house was the point. The renovation, the trust deed, the moment Gerald's face went white in front of 20 people. And yeah, that mattered. All of it mattered. But sitting here now on this porch my grandparents built and my hands rebuilt, I realized the house was never really the thing. The thing was the moment I stopped waiting for my family to see my worth and started building it for myself. I spent 28 years being the easy one, the one who folds, the one who absorbs. And I told myself that was love, that keeping the peace was the same as being at peace. It's not. It's just silence with a nicer name. I won't tell you what to do with your family. I don't know your story. I don't know your Gerald or your Meredith or the specific way they've learned to make you feel small. But I will tell you 3 things I wish someone had told me a long time ago. Boundaries are not punishment. They're not walls you build to hurt people. They're doors. And you get to decide who walks through. Your hands know things your head hasn't figured out yet. My grandmother said that to me when I was 9, and I'm only now understanding what she meant. Sometimes you have to start building before you believe you can. And the last one, the hardest one, you do not owe anyone a version of yourself that makes their life more comfortable at the cost of your own. That's it. That's what the ruin taught me. Now, I'm curious. If you had to pick one moment from this story that hit you the most, which was it? Was it the housewarming party, the trust deed reveal, or Meredith on the porch with that little box? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, your stories are braver than mine. If you want another one like this, there's a video in the description I think you'll love. Hit subscribe if this one meant something to you, and I'll see you next time.